I never expected my wedding day to begin with the same quiet dread I used to feel before every family holiday, an anxious buzzing beneath my ribs like something inside me already knew I would be disappointed again. Standing behind the tall frosted doors of the Bellevue Grand Garden Ballroom, wearing a gown I spent 8 months altering to perfection, I should have felt beautiful, excited, radiant. Instead, I stood rooted to the marble floor, listening to the murmurs of 120 guests on the other side, their whispers floating thinly through the crack between the doors. Her parents aren't here yet. Those front chairs look untouched. Do they not approve of the groom? Each question sliced through the fragile calm I'd built all morning. The event coordinator hurried toward me, her face pale and tense. "Alexis, your parents just arrived." But she swallowed. "They're arguing with the staff. They're demanding things be changed." My stomach clenched. And then, before I could process anything, the doors behind me banged open. My mother's heels struck the floor like angry punctuation marks, and my father trailed behind her wearing the same helpless, resigned expression he had worn my entire childhood. My mother didn't even look at me first. Her eyes swept across the venue from the ivory roses to the shimmering crystal chandeliers to the grand aisle runner. She clicked her tongue in disgust. "Alexis, what is all this I told you? Small, modest, elegant. Not this spectacle." She raised her hand dramatically. "You're trying to outshine your sister. Is that it? Morgan's wedding is next month, and you expect us to sit quietly while you draw all this attention?" I opened my mouth to speak, but she cut me off before a sound escaped. "Turn down those lights," she snapped at the coordinator. "These chandeliers are blinding. And change these flowers white roses? For a daytime ceremony, who taught you these things?" She pointed sharply at the quartet. "And the music? It sounds like a dramatic movie soundtrack. Lower the volume. And someone fix those table runners, they're too luxurious. Honestly, what were you thinking?" I felt heat creeping up my neck, embarrassment burning beneath my skin as guests continued to whisper on the other side of the doors. The coordinator looked helplessly at me, silently asking whether she should obey my mother or wait for my instruction, but I couldn't form words. Before I gathered myself, Ethan stepped forward. My fiancé, calm but furious in that steady way of his, lowered his voice as he said, "Mrs. Carter, this is Alexis's day. Our day. We planned it together." My mother scoffed, tossing her hand. "Exactly. And she planned it carelessly without considering how Morgan would feel. Your wedding looks," she waved at the floral arch in disgust, "extravagant. Almost desperate for attention." My father muttered something about family reputation, as if the mere existence of my wedding threatened the Carter household. I felt the familiar sting of being minimized, dismissed, overshadowed by Morgan's glow since childhood. But I forced myself to breathe, to maintain some semblance of composure. The ceremony had to begin. So I lifted my chin, signaled the coordinator, and stepped forward. The doors opened. Soft light poured in. The guests rose to their feet. For a moment, the world slowed, and I felt a fleeting warmth in my chest, until my gaze locked on the 2 front-row chairs reserved for my parents, decorated with satin ribbons, fresh lilies, and absolutely untouched. Empty. Stark. Humiliating. Their absence wasn't subtle, it was a spectacle of its own. Whispers rippled through the audience like a cold wind. Did her parents really not come? That's heartbreaking. How could they miss this? The weight of their pity pressed against my ribs, threatening to break something fragile inside me. But then I saw Ethan at the altar, smiling at me with love clear in his eyes, and I told myself that would be enough. That he would be enough. The ceremony unfolded beautifully despite everything. Our vows were spoken, rings exchanged, and the officiant pronounced us husband and wife. For one blissful moment, surrounded by applause, I believed the day could still be saved. But the moment passed too quickly. The DJ, oblivious to the tension, cheerfully announced, "Now for the father-daughter dance." The music began. A soft spotlight drifted across the room. My hands grew cold. My chest tightened. People looked around, confused, expecting someone to step forward. My father did nothing. He didn't step up. He didn't shout, "Here I am." He stood by the bar, pretending not to notice. My breath hitched. The humiliation washed over me, hot and suffocating, until a gentle hand touched my shoulder. Thomas Ethan's father smiled softly and extended his hand. "If you'll let me," he said, "I'd be honored." Tears welled in my eyes. When I placed my hand in his, the room shifted. Guests wiped their eyes, touched by the gesture. My mother watched from the corner, her expression twisting. Anger, embarrassment, something vicious. Later, while guests mingled and music swelled, I stepped aside to check my buzzing phone. A new message from Morgan glowed on the screen. "Mom says you never sent them their invitations. How could you be so careless? You made her look awful." My head spun. I had personally mailed the invitations, double-checked the addresses, tracked the delivery. They were lying. Again. And the realization sliced through me like a clean, cruel blade. But the night wasn't done unraveling. During the cake cutting, the LED screen behind us suddenly flickered. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the guests. The screen lit up with a video playing automatically, unprompted. My pulse surged. There was Morgan lounging on her bed in perfect makeup, speaking into her front camera with a smirk on her face. "I know why Mom and Dad aren't going," she said casually. "Alexis insisted on making her wedding look like some grand production. She doesn't realize how pathetic it looks. Mom said it would undermine my wedding." And honestly, she's right. Gasps erupted across the room. My mother stumbled forward, shouting, "Turn it off." But the system kept playing, cueing the next video automatically. And this time, it wasn't Morgan's face. It was an email. My father's email, projected huge across the screen for the entire room to see. "Remember to tell your sister we never got the invitation. Let her take the blame. We can't have people thinking we're choosing sides, especially not before Morgan's wedding." People stared at my parents with open shock and disgust. Guests murmured, "They lied. They humiliated their own daughter. Who does this?" My legs trembled. I felt exposed, betrayed in the most public way imaginable. Then Ethan stepped in front of the crowd, his voice sharp as a blade. "You didn't just skip her wedding. You planned to shame her. To protect an image that was never real to begin with." My mother tried to protest, blaming technical issues, but no one listened. And then, Linda, my mother-in-law, rose from her seat with commanding presence. "If her own parents cannot honor her, then we will," she said boldly. "From this day forward, Alexis is family to us, and we protect our own." Applause exploded. My mother's face drained to paper white. 3 days later, the fallout began. My Aunt Marissa called in tears, apologizing. Cousins, uncles, relatives, everyone saw the videos circulating in the private family chat. They confronted my parents, and one by one half the family decided they would not attend Morgan's wedding. My mother blamed me furiously. My father sent guilt-filled speeches. Morgan called from unknown numbers claiming her life was ruined. The desperation was sudden and severe because for once, the consequences weren't falling on me. And then came the message from my mother offering to reimburse some wedding expenses if I would show up and smile at Morgan's big day. I sent back one picture, the 2 empty chairs from my wedding, and one sentence: "My presence isn't for sale." The week leading up to Morgan's wedding was a slow-motion avalanche, the kind you see coming but can't outrun. Every day brought a new explosion, another emotional landmine waiting in my notifications. First came the guilt-drenched voicemails from my mother, her tone oscillating between icy contempt and trembling desperation. "Alexis, your father hasn't slept. Do you understand what you've done to this family? You humiliated your sister? She's devastated. This was supposed to be her special month." As if my wedding was an inconvenience, a poorly timed storm interrupting their curated sunshine. Then the text messages arrived thread after thread, Morgan's name lighting up my phone like a siren. Fix this. You've caused enough drama. We were supposed to look united. Everyone's asking why mom and dad weren't at your wedding. You need to tell them you messed up the invitations. The entitlement dripped from every word like she genuinely believed I existed, only to maintain the spotless glass image she reflected back at the world. But the worst message wasn't from my mother or Morgan, it was from my father. A single sentence disguised as reason family comes before your feelings, Alexis. The moment I read it, something deep inside me cracked, not loudly but in a clean, final way, like a rope snapping under years of strain. I didn't reply to any of them. Ethan noticed the change immediately. "You're quieter," he said one evening as we sat on the couch, the glow of the city reflecting off the windows. I shrugged, too tired to muster a lie. "I'm just done," I whispered. And I meant it. Done being the scapegoat, the invisible daughter, the placeholder they dusted off for holidays. Done swallowing hurt until it curdled into numbness. Done protecting people who wouldn't cross a street for me. When Morgan's wedding invitations went out, the effect was immediate. My Aunt Marissa forwarded me screenshots from the Carter family group chat where cousins and relatives openly questioned my parents. How could they treat Alexis this way? They lied and blamed her. If they could do that to their own daughter, what else have they lied about? The thread spiraled, and within hours, several relatives announced they would not be attending Morgan's wedding. "We don't support people who humiliate their own child," one cousin wrote. It was a sentence so sharp and honest that I reread it 3 times. The next morning, my mother left 16 missed calls. My father emailed a 2-page lecture about loyalty and family reputation. Morgan sent voice messages crying, begging, threatening, cycling through emotions like someone flipping channels on a broken TV. In one recording, she wailed, "I need you to fix this. My wedding is falling apart because of you." But even through her screaming, the truth was clearer than ever. This wasn't about love. This was about optics, appearances, performance. They were not losing me. They were losing the image of a perfect family, the one they curated like an art exhibit. And yet, despite all the chaos, I still felt a small knot of guilt coil inside my chest. Years of conditioning don't unravel overnight. One evening, I voiced the fragile doubt to Ethan. Am I doing the right thing? Am I being cruel? He turned off the TV and looked at me with a seriousness that made my throat tighten. "Alexis, they skipped your wedding. On purpose. They lied. They tried to blame you. And then they tried to manipulate you to save face for your sister's wedding. If you went now, after everything, they'd learn nothing except that you will tolerate anything." Silence settled between us, thick with truth. 2 days before Morgan's wedding, a cream envelope slid under our apartment door. My stomach knotted as I recognized my father's handwriting. Inside was a personal check for $2,000 and a note in my mother's elegant script. "This is for your wedding expenses you irresponsibly overspent on. We forgive you. Now please show your sister support on her big day. Smile. Be gracious. Do not make a scene." I stared at the check for a long time, not with temptation, with disbelief. My presence had a price, and they'd finally named it. I placed the check on the table, snapped a photo, and sent it to my mother with 5 words. "My presence isn't for sale. I didn't wait for the fallout. I didn't need to. I felt it coming like thunder." The morning of Morgan's wedding arrived with a strange, peaceful stillness. Ethan and I packed a small bag, got into the car, and drove toward Olympic National Park. While guests took their seats in a flower-covered venue 2 hours away, I stood on Hurricane Ridge with the mountains stretching endlessly before me. The air tasted clean, sharp, liberating. My phone buzzed once, twice, then a flood. I ignored them until a message arrived from my Aunt Marissa with a photo attached. It was a shot of Morgan's wedding reception. Half the tables were empty, chairs left bare, a few guests seated awkwardly glancing around as though waiting for others who would never come. Her message read, "Your truth reached everyone. They're furious at your parents. Morgan is devastated. But this is theirs to deal with, not yours." For the first time in years, I felt free. But peace doesn't go unchallenged for long. The next week, my work phone rang from an unknown number. When I answered, my mother's voice crackled through, laced with dramatic agony. "Alexis, why are you doing this to us? Your sister cried all night. She's humiliated. Do you understand how hard this has been on your father and me?" I glanced out my office window, watching rain streak down the glass. "Mom," I said calmly, "I didn't do anything. People reacted to the truth." She gasped like I'd slapped her. "Truth. The truth is whatever the family agrees it is, and you chose to betray us." The line echoed with her sobbing. I closed my eyes and said, "I'm at work. I have to go." And I ended the call. The following days felt surreal. My father emailed Ethan lecturing him about marital duty and controlling your wife. Ethan forwarded the email to me with one sentence: "Your father is deeply unwell." Meanwhile, Morgan texted from one banned number after another. "People are attacking Mom online. You ruined my wedding video. Why do you always need to be the victim? I hate you for what you've done." And finally, "You were never part of this family." Strangely, that last message didn't hurt. It felt confirming. Like someone stating the last line of a truth I'd already known for years. That weekend, Ethan's parents invited us for dinner. When Linda opened the door, the smell of roasted garlic and warm bread filled the air. The roads home felt like stepping into a different world, soft lighting, photos lining the walls, laughter coming from the living room. A warmth that seeped into my bones. During dinner, without ceremony or fuss, Linda placed more potatoes on my plate and said, "Sweetheart, if you ever need a real home, this one's yours." I nearly broke down right there. 2 weeks later, the situation escalated again. I received a lengthy email from Morgan with the subject line, "My side of the story." The body of the email was a full manifesto blaming me for every negative event in her life: my academic successes stealing attention, my quiet personality draining the family, my wedding sabotaging her momentum. It was a masterclass in entitlement and delusion. I deleted it without finishing. But the universe wasn't done. The next night, I received a message from one of my cousins. "Your parents are telling people you fabricated the videos. They're saying the email was photoshopped." My stomach twisted. They hadn't learned. They never would. They didn't want reconciliation, they wanted obedience. And that realization brought clarity like never before. The next morning, I sat at my desk with a cup of coffee and began drafting a single powerful email. Not emotional, not angry, just factual. I compiled every record delivery confirmations, wedding invitations, screenshots, the LED screen footage, text messages of manipulation, the check they sent to buy my attendance. I attached everything to one email addressed to the entire extended family. The subject line, "For transparency." And I wrote, "This is what happened. You may choose to stay neutral or take sides. I will not engage further. I am choosing peace." Within an hour, my inbox flooded with replies. "We had no idea. Your parents lied to everyone. We support you. We're sorry we believed their version." Even an uncle I barely spoke to wrote, "You deserved better." That night, Ethan found me on the couch, tears slipping down my cheeks. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming release of years of being unseen. "Hey," he whispered, pulling me into his arms. "You're not alone anymore." And for the first time, the words didn't feel like comfort. They felt like truth. But the final storm hadn't hit yet. And when it did, it shook everything I thought I'd healed. But the quiet never lasts long when it comes to the Carter family. 2 weeks after I sent the email to the extended relatives, the silence collapsed like a rotten beam giving way under its own weight. One afternoon, while I was reviewing a software security proposal at my office, my phone buzzed with a notification from an unknown number. I almost ignored it until a second message arrived immediately after, then a third. My pulse quickened with the old familiar dread. I opened the messages reluctantly, and what stared back at me was a barrage of screenshots posts from a private Facebook group run by distant relatives where my mother had been sharing her side of the story. According to her posts, she and my father had been victims of a malicious smear campaign led by a jealous daughter who couldn't stand her sister's happiness. She claimed I had hacked their emails, edited text messages, and hired someone to sabotage the LED screen at my own wedding for attention. My chest went cold. It wasn't just denial anymore, it was delusion. I forwarded the screenshots to Ethan without commentary. He replied instantly, "She's escalating because she's losing control. Don't let her drag you back." But despite his words, a creeping anxiety slithered into my stomach. They were rewriting the narrative publicly now. And though most people knew the truth, the idea of my own mother portraying me as some unhinged saboteur made me feel sick. That night, as I lay curled against Ethan trying to drown out the storm in my head, the phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video message from my cousin. "Alexis, you need to see this." The shaky recording captured Morgan at a backyard barbecue surrounded by a handful of sympathetic relatives who still clung to her like she was royalty. She was dramatic, as always, tears streaking her mascara as she complained loudly about me. "She ruined my wedding," she wailed, gripping a champagne glass like a microphone. "Half the guests didn't even show up because of her. She wants to be the victim so badly. And now everyone is taking her side. It's not fair. I'm the one who always carried this family. I'm the one who made them proud. And she wrecked everything." I watched the video twice. Not because I didn't believe it the first time, but because seeing her unravel so publicly made something inside me harden into an unshakable truth. They would never change. Not my mother. Not my father. Not Morgan. Their world was built on mirrors and curated illusions, and I had stopped participating in the illusion. 3 days later, everything reached a breaking point. I was walking out of a company meeting when my supervisor approached me with a puzzled look. "Alexis, were you expecting visitors? There are 2 people waiting for you in the lobby." My heart sank. I knew who it was before I even turned the corner. My parents sat rigidly on the lobby couch, dressed formally as if attending a business negotiation. My mother stood first. "We need to talk." Her voice carried the same commanding tone she had used my whole life, the tone that used to freeze me. But not anymore. "I'm at work," I replied flatly. "I can't do this here." She stepped closer. "You are destroying this family. Your sister is inconsolable. Your father can't sleep. Relatives are questioning our integrity. Do you understand what you've done?" I inhaled slowly through my nose, feeling Ethan's words echo in my mind. "They're losing control." I exhaled. "What I've done," I said calmly, "is tell the truth." My mother scoffed in disbelief, her voice rising. "Truth. Your truth is not the truth. Our family has always presented unity, harmony. You shattered that." I met her gaze without blinking. "If your harmony requires me to be silent about how you treated me, then yes, I shattered it." Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she looked startled. My father cleared his throat. "Alexis, just come home. Sit with us. Apologize. Help us fix things before more relatives talk." A bitter laugh escaped me. "You want me to apologize?" "Yes," my father said, exasperated. "This is bigger than your hurt feelings." I stared at him, stunned by how honestly he revealed their worldview. My mother's voice softened artificially. "Sweetheart, we can move past everything. Just delete that email you sent." Tell the family it was a misunderstanding. Come home. A cold calm washed over me. No. She blinked rapidly. What did you say? No, I repeated. I'm done. My mother's face contorted not with sadness but with rage. If you leave this lobby without coming home with us, then you are no longer our daughter. My father nodded silently beside her, confirming it. For a moment, a single fragile pain pierced my chest, an echo of the little girl who once begged for their affection. Then it was gone. Okay, I said. If that's what it takes for you to feel in control, then I accept it. I walked past them as they stared at me in disbelief, as if shocked their ultimatum didn't work. When the elevator doors closed, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't break. I simply felt light, strangely, beautifully light. But the final, most defining twist came a month later. By then, Morgan's second attempt to hold a wedding reception had already fallen apart. Vendors quit, guests backed out, and her fiancé's family grew uncomfortable with the never-ending drama. They postponed again. My mother blamed me for every failure, sending bitter emails to anyone who would listen. I ignored them all. One Saturday morning, while Ethan and I were having coffee in our new home, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a small package on the porch with no return address. Inside was a USB drive. Ethan and I exchanged a look. Should we see what it is? He asked cautiously. I plugged it into my laptop. A single video file appeared. For you. My pulse quickened. I clicked play. The footage showed a dimly lit room, my parents' living room. My mother was sitting on the couch, looking exhausted and disheveled in a way I had never seen. My father sat beside her, staring at the floor. It was clearly recorded without their knowledge. Someone must have set up a phone on the shelf. I recognized my aunt's voice off camera, speaking quietly. Carol, Daniel. This is your chance to tell the truth. My mother shook her head. No one will believe us now. My father said nothing. My aunt's voice hardened. Say it. My mother breathed shakily. Fine. We didn't go to Alexis's wedding because we didn't want Morgan to feel overshadowed. She paused, swallowing. We thought, if we didn't attend, maybe people wouldn't compare the weddings. Morgan always needs things to be perfect. And Alexis? Her voice trailed off. My aunt prompted gently. Say the rest. My mother pressed her palms to her eyes. I knew the invitations arrived. I saw the mail. I told Morgan to say they didn't. My father spoke at last, voice low. We thought Alexis would forgive us eventually. She always did. The confession hung in the air, heavy and devastating. My aunt's voice came again. And the email. My mother nodded, shame flickering across her face. Daniel wrote it. We wanted to control the narrative before anyone asked questions. Silence filled the room. My aunt finally said she deserves to know. The video ended. I leaned back, breath trembling. Ethan watched me carefully. Are you okay? I didn't answer immediately. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because for the first time I felt something profound and unexpected: closure. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just closure. I copied the video into a folder and set the USB aside. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a fresh cup of tea, and stood by the window watching sunlight spill across the lawn. I didn't send the video to the family. I didn't share it. I didn't respond to my parents. Because I no longer needed anything from them, not validation, not apology, not acknowledgement. Their confession wasn't a gift. It wasn't redemption. It was simply the final proof of what I had known deep in my bones my entire life. Their love had always been conditional, fragile, and performative. And I was finally free from it. A year later, I held my newborn daughter in my arms as she slept against my chest, her tiny breaths warm and steady. Ethan sat beside me, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. What do you want her to know about your family? He whispered. I kissed her soft head. Nothing, I said. She'll grow up knowing what real love looks like. That's enough. He smiled, squeezing my hand. Outside, the world was quiet, safe, warm, and for the first time in my entire life, so was I.